it's really just an experiment to see what we can get from reusing spent compost, because obviously with everything to do with climate change and trying not to use peat, well, we've got to stop using peat. There's no other way really. It's just a matter of seeing how much we can get out of compost, more than just for one season and then just throwing it away. So they're the fruits.
Yeah.
And they are toxic. They have a toxic in them called, I think it's solanine, which is quite unpleasant really. If you eat those, it makes you feel nauseous. It gives you bad stomach cramps and makes you feel sick. So I always cut the flowers off, which obviously come before the fruit, because if you've got little kids in garden, around your veg garden, they see them, they just think, they might just try eating one. Yeah. So yeah, it can make them really quite poorly. So that's why I always cut the flowers off. Yeah, once your potatoes start to flower, that's normally a sign that they're a mature plant and they're starting to build the tubers up down below. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to, but like I say, I do it really for safety reasons if you've got kids about. And they're part of the nightshade family potatoes, which obviously nightshade are poisonous, so that's why we cut them off. So this was this compost was stored from last year, and what you do before you store it, make sure you let it dry out, because if you store it wet, you can get moulds in it, and bacteria. But make sure you dry it out. What I tend to do is put it in a greenhouse, just open, so that it can properly dry, and then bag it up. Pop it in your shed, and then you're ready to go the next year. Yeah. So with these, what I did was, we only filled the bag up to sort of a foot, maybe, in depth. Pop the seed potato in. Always try and use a proper seed potato. They do produce better crops, and they've got more disease resistance. So this is a seed potato called Rooster. Yeah. And as the potato's grown, what I've done is gradually fill the bag back up with spent compost, and we've used the compost probiotic on it, the Envy product, which is to help put nutrients back into spent compost. We also put on the top of it as well some well-rotted manure and grass cuttings as well, and basically we've done that to stop any sunlight getting at the potatoes as they grow. Oh, okay. Because again, if your potatoes go green, that's the same thing that's in your little fruit. Yeah. Let's we'll cut this open. I'll be careful to cut it open, just gently, because I'm hoping that we've got potatoes most of the way up. But we'll see what we get. So as you can see, we've got roots right down to the bottom of the bag, because that's where they started out. Let's have a look. There's your first one. So that's quite a nice little potato. It's very clean as well. There's no disease on that. Almost doesn't even need washing. It's that clean. So there's a few. That's because a potato's quite a greedy plant as well. It makes a big top. Sometimes you get all top and no tubers. Sometimes the tops might not be so big, but you'll get a good crop. Yeah. So it's quite good. That's encouraging anyway so far. They make excellent chips.
What we like.
Yeah. See, there's still some that are growing there. That's because we've not allowed the top to completely die off. Because all the time you've got your green at the top, it's taking in the sunlight, and it's the moisture's coming down through the bag. Yeah. I've not watered this for a couple of days deliberately, just so it's dry, because I knew we were going to harvest it. Yeah. But obviously at this point in the process, you want to be giving them plenty of water, because that water's going to go into your tubers. Yeah. Let's have a look. I'm still finding them. There's some nice ones there.
Have you ever grown them like
No,
this?
it's a new thing for me as well. Yeah. But we've got 5 bags on that little pallet. It's probably a metre square, if that. So if you've got a backyard or anything,
it's quite a compact
quite a compact way of getting a crop out of 1 bag of compost,
Yeah.
and it's an old bag at that. Like we said, we've just put a bit of probiotic in it. You can see the root system.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is your actual stem of your plant, and like tomatoes, this stem will root, and that's why when you're piling up the compost on top of it through the bag, this will all root. You can see it's starting to root from there, and that's where obviously your tubers develop.
Right.
But that's okay. That's from one seed potato.
Yeah.
There's another one there. You see how that one's right at the top of the bag?
Yeah.
If I hadn't covered that with grass or the manure, that'd be green and that'd be inedible.
Right.
So just by popping some grass clippings on, which most people have got. Obviously, if you've got a lawn, you're gonna have grass clippings, and you see the grass is completely gone anyway. It's rotted down. It's gone into the soil. So as soon as you've picked them, let them dry off properly, and then get them straight into storage. And you can keep them for 4, 5, 6 months in a brown paper bag in somewhere dark and cool and dry. Yeah. This is pretty clean because it's like been in a bag, but in other pots sometimes you might get things like vine weevil.
Oh, right.
So their larvae are in the soil.
Right.
And they're like they're almost like a C-shaped grub. They're a creamy colour with an orange head.
Yeah.
And what you want to do is if before you store your compost, go through it and make sure you check for them, because you need to get rid of them. Because what they do, vine weevil, is they eat the roots of your plants. So you'll probably be able to tell if you've got them, because your plants will die. So especially in containers. So things like your flower pots, if you've got petunias, that sort of thing, anything with a decent root system, if they start to wilt and go yellow and die, generally speaking, it's going to be vine weevil that's in there. So if you take your compost out, you just need to sift through it really before you store it. Don't just tip it on your compost heap or tip it on your garden as a mulch, because that's another good way of using spent compost, because the worms and everything will take your compost down into the soil. Make sure you go through it and just dispose of them. The other thing to do is to make sure you take all the root out of your compost. There's not much in there because it's all attached to potato anyway. But this is ideal for either putting in your compost bin, drying it out and bagging it up for next year.
Yeah.
Or what I would do with this, because it's been used twice now, I'd probably just use it as a mulch. So come sort of September, October time, when it's starting to get a bit damper outside and you've not got so many crops in the garden, just spread it over either your vegetable beds or your flower beds, and it'll work its way into your soil and improve your soil. Because although there's not a lot of life left in that now, it's had two crops off it, get that into your soil, especially if you've got clayey soil, it'll help to break the clay up. If you've got a really dry soil, it'll help retain moisture, so it's a win-win really. But all the time you're growing, you need to be adding material as well. So manure, things like Active Earth.
I was going to say Active Earth.
Yeah, there's another product that we use, isn't it? So digging peat up releases so much carbon into the atmosphere, because the peat has actually locked the carbon in, but by digging it up you're releasing it. And that's the key thing. The more of this sort of material that you can reuse, the better, and it's more cost effective for yourself. It's better for your pocket. You're not continually every year paying out for 5, 10, 15, 20, however many bags of compost you want to or you need to use. Well, and to be honest, when it first came out, the mixers weren't the best. I think most gardeners will readily admit that they love peat. Although we also understand we've got to change and move with the times. So it's important that we reuse and get as much as we can out of everything that we've bought. Especially, obviously you can reuse peat-free compost. There's nothing to say you can't reuse that, which is, again, a good thing to do. And the more ideas people come up with, the better for reusing it.